Guys, welcome to Hollywood Rage. My name is Amy, and today, instead of giving you tips and tricks on how to go further with your selling, I wanted to come on and just kind of let you guys know who I am and my backstory on how I got started selling. So, I've been a seller on eBay for 19 years off and on. My husband was in the military. He served 21 years in the Army, and then he retired. We had children at a young age, and so when he first went in the military, we had already had our first child, and we had our second child not too long after that. Well, I wanted to be able to stay home with my children until they got on up in age. But I also wanted to be able to make some money on the side. So my parents at the time, they owned a t-shirt business where they would go around to festivals and craft shows, and they would take their heat transfer and blank shirts, and they would press the transfers onto the shirts for people, and they made a lot of money doing it. And so my husband and I got interested, and we wanted to give it a try. And we were living in different areas at the time, so there was like no competition with my parents or anything like that. And we were actually living in Oklahoma at the time. And my family is from Georgia. But when we were out in Oklahoma, we decided to give it a try, and we purchased a heat press, and we purchased a lot of blank t-shirts, and we went around to craft shows and trade shows and that kind of stuff, and we set up just like my family did, and we sold shirts. We also went to flea markets and did this on the weekends, and we were making pretty good money doing it. We would make about $600 a weekend. And now we're talking back in like 1998, 99 time frame. So it's been a long time ago, and back then $600 in a weekend was pretty good money. So we did that for a while, and I got the idea to start listing the shirts online. So I put them on a website called eCrater, which was free to list on and sell your products. And I started putting some on eBay. Well, it did pretty good. And I sold the shirts for a while, along with some other items like sunglasses and different things like that. So my husband came down on orders, on military orders, to go let's see, we were going to Hawaii at the time. So we went to Hawaii for 3 years, and I really didn't do any selling while we were in Hawaii because, I figured to get the merchandise over there, the shipping would cost so much and everything. And so I just let the selling go for the 3 years that I was in Hawaii. But I actually had a really great opportunity come my way to be able to work for the Army. And I'm a nurse by trade, and so I was offered a position at a family practice clinic as a nurse there. So I worked doing that for the 3 years that we were in Hawaii. And then my husband came down on orders to go to Colorado. So this was around 2006, 2007 time frame. We went to Colorado, and we arrived in Colorado in October. My husband, after just getting there, he got orders to go to Afghanistan, and he was going to be leaving in January. So I had another opportunity at that time to work for the Army, doing the same thing that I was doing in Hawaii. But being that my husband was getting ready to leave, and at that time we had a 4-year-old, and then our oldest 2 daughters were younger teenagers. And I just decided, you know what, I'm going to be here at least for a year by myself with our children. So I'm not going to go back working as a nurse. I felt like I should stay home, and be there for my children and take care of the home while my husband was away. And so I decided to start back selling on eBay. And during this time, there was a lot of competition on eBay, but it was nothing like it is now. And so I decided to order, I had $1,000 saved up, and I decided to take that $1,000 and do a wholesale order. So I ordered brand new boutique items, and I had one clothing rack. The rack that I had was like a rack that I bought at Walmart, one of the kind of flimsy racks. But I ordered $1,000 worth of clothing, and it filled up that one rack. And I started in my bedroom. So I got those clothes listed, and it went really good because, like I said, back then there was not a lot of competition on eBay. I was selling the items really fast. And so I was able to grow that one rack into a full 2-car garage that was jam-packed with racks. And I'm talking about, I had so much inventory. The garage was so jam-packed. I had clothes hanging from like the rails that the garage door lifts up on. I had clothes hanging all up from there. Like, we were just trying to find anywhere to store the inventory. And so it really took off, and I was actually doing 6 figures a year on eBay at that time. And I was able to get a lot of stuff accomplished as far as things around the house. Now, we did come down on orders after being in Colorado. My husband was gone for one of the years. He came back from being deployed, and he was actually in Colorado for a year, and we came down on orders again. This time we were on orders to go back to our home state of Georgia, and we were very excited about that, to be able to get back closer to home, especially since my husband would be retiring within the next few years. So we did our move, and instead of letting the movers come in and take all of our merchandise and inventory, we actually moved that ourselves, so that I could, as soon as we got into a housing or temporary housing, waiting for our permanent housing, that I could still operate my business because it was going so well. I really didn't want to, stop it. I wanted it to keep going. So, we purchased the home. We got settled in. The business was going good. I was able to accomplish a lot with the money that I was making. I paid off our vehicle at the time. I had a brand new privacy fence put in at our home. We had a really nice big storage unit put in outside that had like electricity and heat and air, and like we were able to do a lot with the money that I was making on eBay at the time. So eBay, which is known for this now, making major changes, and they made a major change within eBay, and it really messed up my business, because I was a seller that I had an item that I was selling that was so popular at the time, and I had sold probably the most of that item out of anybody on eBay. And so when a buyer would go and search for that item, I was always the first seller to pop up, the very first listing. And so it really helped me to continue to keep selling that item. And eBay did changes. They changed their algorithm, or whatever it's called, their search thing. And also they started implementing these, the seller detail ratings. And now they've changed it. But back then, when they first came out with this system, because before they came out with that, it was just simply, positive, negative feedback. But they implemented this detailed seller rating, and it wasn't like it is now, where if you ship your item out on time, you automatically get 5 stars and, all that kind of stuff. The buyer was going in and actually giving you stars and rating you for like 5 different areas. And if you got like a low, anything below 5, it knocked you down in search. And so that really took a toll on my business. And also, if a buyer left you any kind of negative feedback, that would affect the way how you would show up in search results also. And their reasoning for this was they wanted to level the playing field for all sellers and not let like certain sellers monopolize the platform. So if you think that you have been upset with the recent changes that eBay has made, you should, if you weren't a part of it back then, you should have had that experience, because so many sellers were so upset with eBay at this time because it really, really messed up their business. And I mean, there were tons and tons of sellers that left eBay. And I hung in there for a while at that time. But when you go from making 6 figures a year in a business down to making like 20 to 30,000 a year in a business, that really takes a toll on everything. And it's, I started getting discouraged. I started getting burnt out. And I got a great offer to work for the Army again in a clinic on post. And the pay was great. There were great benefits that came with the job. So I said, well, I'm going to let selling go for a while. And I'm going to go back to nursing and, see how this job will be. And so that's what I did. And I did that for 2 or 3 years. And my husband actually ended up retiring from the military. And when he retired, he actually started selling on eBay, but he wasn't selling like the clothing and stuff that I was selling. He wanted to do something different. So he started selling hard goods. He was selling a lot of home decor items, and really it was a lot of items that would break easily. And so he was having problems with that. And he just didn't, care for, the complaints from buyers and having to deal with that whole customer service aspect of the business. He didn't like that. So he did do it for a while, but then he decided to stop. And we ended up, after he retired, we ended up moving. We were in our home state, but we ended up moving closer to our hometown. So I gave up my job there and we did a move. But while we were in the process of moving, I got another great opportunity. And this time it was an opportunity to work for the VA. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with being employed for the VA, but the VA is known for being a great organization to work for. And so I decided once again to, work as a nurse for the VA and see how I would like it. And the job was really good. But, the whole time I was there, I was seeing like what all these other sellers were doing. All these new boutiques that were starting up and this and that. And all I could think of was I could be doing that, and I would be at work and I would just really be thinking of all this business stuff and things that I wanted to do as far as business goes. And my father started having some health problems. And so I ended up, after working for the VA for a couple of years, I ended up giving up that job because I wanted to be able to take my father around to some doctor's appointments and go with him and listen to what the doctors would say. And he had some appointments that were kind of far off. I didn't want him driving to those appointments. So I really just gave up my job and to kind of take care of him a little more. And I got started back selling on eBay again. And this was like a January time frame. And I started back really slowly selling. and I've just been at it ever since then. But that's why I say that my selling on eBay has been a on and off thing. It's been 19 years ago that I did start selling on eBay, and I've had my high times with eBay where I've made a killing and I loved it, and then I've had my low times with eBay where I really just haven't made that much money and just have been fed up with a lot of the changes, you know. But honestly, the changes that come out now, like, I just roll with it. I don't even let it get to me that much, because after going through what I went through, you know, like 10 years ago with eBay, I'm just used to it now. Like, I think eBay is always going to make changes. It's just part of who they are, I think. So I just roll with it. Whatever the changes are, I just roll with it. But I will say this, if I could give, you know, any advice to anybody, what I would say is, if selling is something that you love to do, you know, don't give up on it. If it's something you really enjoy, if it's your passion, keep at it. Because I will say that I think the biggest mistake that I made was giving it up. Even though I loved it back in my days of selling when I was doing great, I gave it up, and during those 10 years, so much changed on eBay, and I really feel like I missed out on a lot. When I came back into the eBay game, people were killing it. I mean, they had been making tons of money, and I wasn't familiar with the new, you know, systems that were in place and everything. And I just, you know, back when I used to be a big seller on eBay, I used to wish so bad that I could see, like, other people's operations on how they ran their eBay business, how they shipped items, how they stored their items. And back then, you know, 10 years ago or whatever, YouTube was out. Like, I think it had just came out. But you could not find, like, anything about selling on eBay on there. It was, you know, it just hadn't blown up like it has now. There wasn't no reseller community or anything like that. And now, you know, you have so much information at your disposal now. If you want to know anything about selling, you could go on YouTube and find a video. You can see how other sellers are running their operations, and, you know, you can communicate with sellers, get ideas from sellers, and it's really, really great, you know, what has evolved from it all. And I'm really glad to be back into selling. I'm glad to be a part of the reselling community, and I just love it. Like, eBay and, you know, just selling online in general is just really what makes me happy. And I've started, you know, I had started a Poshmark account like back, I think it was in 2016. No, 2017. I started a Poshmark account, but I never did anything with it. Like, I don't even remember actually starting it. I guess I heard something about it, and I started a Poshmark account, and I started a Store Envy account. And I don't think Store Envy has ever really, like, been that successful. But, you know, Poshmark has now blown up. And I started hearing more and more about, you know, eBay sellers saying that they were cross-posting the Poshmark. So I was like, well, let me just give this Poshmark thing a try and see how it goes. So what I did was I just took a few old items out of my closet that I didn't want anymore, and I just listed those items on a Poshmark, and they started selling like crazy. So I just started taking my inventory and throwing it up on Poshmark, and it was the best thing that I ever did for my business, because now actually Poshmark is my main selling platform. And it's a lot of work, but, you know, you take it like you got eBay, you're going to get a certain amount of sales on eBay. But if you take and add Poshmark onto that, you know, you can get, you know, 5 sales on eBay that day, but you can also get 5 on Poshmark. So instead of having that just on 5 packages go out, you're going to have 10. And if you add other platforms onto that, you know, you're talking, instead of maybe 10, maybe having 15 packages. I haven't gotten that far as far as like listing my items, I've got a few things on my cart, but I haven't really did anything with that. I just can't seem to, you know, get into it. Poshmark and eBay keeps me pretty busy. But April this year, I went full-time selling on Poshmark, and you know, I sell over $1,000 worth of merchandise a month on Poshmark, so it's been really great integrating that platform in with my selling. But yeah, if I could say one thing, just don't give up. If it's something that you really love to do, don't get discouraged and throw in the towel. Like, stick with it, because you know, right now sales may have been slow for some people, since they've been encouraging free returns and free shipping and all that stuff. And if you don't want to do that, don't do it. That's the great thing about selling online, is that we can run our businesses the way we want. And if you don't want to do that, don't do it. It may hurt your sales some as far as not showing up in the search results, but if it's not something you don't want to do, don't do it. If you are wanting more sales and you're willing to, you know, add that into your business model, then give it a try. But just don't give up on selling. Find a way that it can work for you, because like I said, if there's one thing I regret, it was giving up my selling 10 years ago, because when I see how far so many people have came with their businesses, I always think, you know, like, if I would have stuck with it, you know, maybe I could be there now. But I really had to start, you know, all the way over again with my selling. I had to build everything back up and get new inventory and all that. But I just think I could be so much further if I would have never gave up on it. Now, if it's not for everybody. So if it's something that you hate, if it's something you dread doing, you get up in the morning and you don't look forward to shipping, and you don't look forward to listing, sourcing, and all that, you know, it may not be for you. But if it's something that you really enjoy, stick with it. Me personally, when I go to bed at night, I am looking so forward to the next day to see what, you know, to get all my ideas into play and, you know, implement them and just get started with my business. Like, I look forward to what I do every day, and that's how you know when something is your passion. So this is just my story. I wanted to tell you who I am, who HollywoodRage is. HollywoodRage came about because I started an online clothing boutique selling brand new items, and you know, the name, I have just stuck with that name for all these years. I also am known on social media as Amy Ray also, and I have a website that is called amyray.com. So I do have those two names that I go by, HollywoodRage and Amy Ray. But that is who I am. Wife of 25 years, mother of 3. 2 of my children are grown. 1 is still a minor. And I was a military spouse for 21 years. And I run multiple businesses now. But that is who I am. And I just want to let you guys know that. All right, guys. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I hope you're getting a lot of sales and things are going really good for you. I hope fourth quarter is going good for you. And if you haven't saw a increase in your sales in fourth quarter, it's coming. I'm sure it's coming, because this time of year, it always comes, and it does not matter like how long you've been selling, or whatever. Like even back, you know, 19 years ago when I started, this time of year, the fall time, fourth quarter, always brought more sales. So just hang in there. It's going to get better. So take care, guys, and thank you for joining me today.